How's things otherwise, Rob?
Thanks.
Right? How are things otherwise?
Oh, very busy. We're just a busy place, that's all. Doing infrastructure and stuff. My sons are constructed a loading ramp for the sheep. Really good. You think it was done professionally. And we just got to finish it off. Cast it, in fact, hopefully the next while.
Yes.
That'll be good for loading sheep. I mean, it's 400 lambs to go out on the 21st. So we can do that. We've got to have, when we put in the other shed, it meant we couldn't back into the existing loading ramp. So we had to do something about it. So either patch it up or just do it properly. So it's just very busy, that's all. We don't seem to have enough time to do the things we want to do. Fencing to do and yards to fix up. What a job. Okay. All right, I'll just call to order, please.
Combination of both. Yeah.
Thank you. We're now on Zoom, so I'll declare the meeting open. Thank you very much for your attendance. This meeting will be audio recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory. Hang on, I haven't got my do it again. I'm sorry. This meeting will be audio recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. There is to be no other recording to this meeting without the prior authorisation of the committee. The Infrastructure Service Committee consists of Councillor Lorna Driscoll, Councillor Ron Campbell, Councillor James Byrne, Councillor Sue Abbott. I welcome you, Sue, to the Infrastructure Committee and look forward to working constructively together. Are there any apologies?
It appears to be Mr. Chair, I think Councillor Abbott's on the screen at this point in time. Unless we've got a veto.
Is Councillor Abbott on the screen? We can't see you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I am here and I can hear you.
I can see now.
Okay. Yeah, we can see you now, Sue.
Great.
Okay.
Councillor, also apology from Mr. Nick Havitt.
Any apologies?
Somebody said Councillor Burns, did they?
Yes, and also Nick Havitt, Director. Okay, moving to second for the apologies, please.
Move.
I'll second from the chair. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? There being none, move on to the public participation. And we have one matter of public participation, which I will read out from Lyndon and Louise Wilkinson. Questions regarding MR 358 projects. Correspondence received 12th and 13th of July 2020. There are 16 questions, and so I'll read them out. 1, why was the road not built to specifications? 2, where was the budget for this project? 3, where was a project manager that should have been on site every day? 4, where was the site engineer who was supposed to be checking that the road was being built to specifications? 5, why was the mountain slope not benched? 6, why was an inappropriate drainage system used at the base of such a steep slope? 7, why was the right-hand side of the road heading north built on fill? 8, where were the checks and balances for each step of the project, meaning that if they were not completed to specification, the project should not move on to the next stage? 9, why was government money misappropriated? 10, why was insurance not taken out on this project? 11, where are the budget figures for this $5 million loan to fix the problem? 12, why is it going to take 3 years to repair the road, 3 times longer than you spent to make the road? 13, why is this road not in a top priority? Another example of Merriwa being ignored. 14, why can't the left-hand side of the road heading north and built on the original road be opened? 15, who was the geotechnical expert referred to in the attached PDF file and what company did he work for? we would like a copy of that report, please. We believe that we are ratepayers, we are entitled to see this report. The reference to geotechnical advice and insuring report received by the Upper Hunter Shire Council on the 6th of March 2020. 16, if the road was not built to specification and now is unacceptable to public safety, why was it allowed to be open last year? Now, thank you, Lyndon and Louise Wilkinson. Your questions will be tabled and included in the council. We don't have any questions to you at this stage, but those matters will be tabled and we'll be dealing with those in due course. Thank you for your submission. Okay, we'd like to move on now to our business items. ISC 7.1. Philip, you're the Acting Infrastructure Director. Thank you for filling in for us, and so I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Project highlights from the water sewer wells this month include, but are not limited to, our Aberdeen Hunter River intake improvements. So currently GHD are undertaking condition assessment of our backup water supply infrastructure located in Aberdeen to define key problems related to the arrangement, the structures, mechanical, electrical components. And following the assessment, we'll then get an improvement plan from GHD as well as cost estimates, and then we can decide how much improvement we do based on a cost to risk basis. They're also looking at the operation of they're also looking at the operation of wells 1 and 3 in Scone as another potential backup water supply source. The review was at a cost of $40,000. It should take 2 months to complete. We're about halfway through that now. We are still on that supply infrastructure from Aberdeen. There's still now meeting Glenbourne, so we haven't been able to go back to the Glenbourne supply. So there's still a real and pressing concern. So it's good that we're doing this work, and we have received the draft condition assessment from GHD since I wrote this report. And the initial findings are not positive. There will be a lot of work that we need to do there, and extent of that work will be known in due course. But that report I already forwarded to DPIE Water and Health so that they're kept up to date with our issues. Any questions on that before I move on?
Yes,
Yes, Sue, you have the floor.
Yes, just with respect to wells 1 and 3, is that in relation to Aberdeen, is it?
No, wells 1 and 3 are located, I guess, just to the east of Kingdom Ponds, north of St Albans, in that area there.
And so that's for Scone water, is it? Or
Scone, yes.
yes, okay. And so they're not operating at the moment, they're being reviewed. Is that what the money is for?
Yeah, they haven't operated for a number of years due to drought. They became inoperable, but there's also some underlying water quality concerns with those wells. So they're always intended to, I guess, become a redundant asset once we had the pipeline from Glenbourne, but we're reviewing them to look at all the options that we have available to get us by while we've got these water quality issues at Glenbourne.
Okay, thank you.
Philip, I thought we had got some of the wells operational. Are these the ones that we paid operational earlier, or are they separate wells?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So these are wells 1 and 3. Wells 5 and 6, which were reconditioned, utilised for irrigation of sports fields. So they don't have any chlorination units in them. They haven't been used for town water supply for longer still.
Okay. All right, thank you.
The village reticulation and reservoir will both be covered in a separate report in this meeting. The concepts for Gundy and Moonby have been received from our consultant. They'll be discussing reports to the August IC meeting. The tenders for Murray Reservoir closed on the 7th of July, so we've started our assessment of those. We thought it might be possible to get to the July council meeting, but I don't think that's likely. Things are really close, so we've got to make sure we do our homework. So likely that will probably get tabled at the August committee meeting with our recommendation. But we're still looking, based on the schedules received, for the reservoir construction to be finished in early 2021.
Can I just ask, Mr. Chair, those tenders have come back with...
Could you
Those tenders have come back within the parameters of the budget?
Yes, our current budget estimates, they're within that, I believe, Gavin, they're all within sort of our high level estimate.
3 or 5.
Could you, Gavin, could you put your mic on, please, and give the answer?
Yeah, so there are several options there that we're assessing at the moment that would be within the budget we put forward. Was it July last year? Sorry, early this year.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The drought management emergency response plan, so this is still ticking over. Things aren't happening super fast because we're sort of dealing with us, 2 other councils, and also DPIE, so the New South Wales government on this. But we have got an updated scope of works following a meeting that the 3 councils, the Alliance councils, us, Muswellbrook and Singleton, had with DPIE, some input from them. We've updated scope of works. We've got a draft updated scope of works that we're working through now. That'll be sent to DPIE for approval and funding. And what we're looking at to try and get things moving quicker is to divide that in 2 parts. So what we'll be looking to do is part 1 would be to update our, I guess, the drought triggers and what people can and can't do. You know, if I'm on level 3, what does that mean? That's where there's been a lot of confusion that we found in this last drought. So part 1 would deliver on that and have that uniform across the 3 councils earlier, and then part 2, which would take a bit longer, would be more to do with contingency planning for long-term droughts and other sorts of emergency management responses. Any questions on that?
Yes.
Yes, Sue?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So with the drought management and emergency response plan, is that obviously that's in relation to water use, and that's for farming and mining and the power stations? Is that every water user across those 3 councils?
No, this, through the chair, this is specifically for town water supply.
Oh, right.
Local water utilities. Yeah.
So the other water users aren't involved with this as well, because don't they have an impact on town water supplies? I'm not entirely sure how it's worked out. I know that there are different allocations for different entities, but if this is for town water, yes, how will that work out?
Any crossovers or where there are impacts on other users with our town water supply systems, particularly in emergency scenarios or drought scenarios, would be considered. But yeah, the plan isn't for them. It's an operational plan for us about what we need to do, us and our neighbour councils, in certain scenarios.
So what does that mean? What would you need to do then? Yeah, what sort of thing is council looking at that they would have to do in this sort of situation?
I'll try and think of a specific example. I mean, the obvious one is obviously as we go through a drought scenario and we get less and less water available in the dam, which is a regulated water source. So there's not much we can do in terms of inputs to that water source, but there can be things that we do as councils in response to the water that we have available. Other scenarios might be if we have infrastructure failures at one supply system, say if the Upper Hunt, if the Scone water supply system had a catastrophic failure, or a long-term power outage, how could we potentially get water from a neighbouring council, mapping out, what it would take to get water, say, from Muswellbrook water treatment plant to our system. These are the sort of scenarios that we're looking at when we talk about the drought management and emergency response.
Right, and do bushfires come into this as well? The use.
Yes, they definitely do.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just through the chair. When do you envisage part one being or draft of part one being about? I'm just mindful that Glenville is currently 38.8%.
Yes.
Which is not very healthy.
We're working, thank you for your question, through the chair, we're working to get this done ASAP. Again, there's a limit to how quickly we can progress that, as we're sort of dealing with other councils and also DPIE on this, which was the motivation to try and split it up into two parts to get things happening quicker. Best case scenario, we can have an updated restriction levels and whatnot as we head into this summer, but that may not be the case. It will remain a top priority for all three councils though. The renewable energy options for Upper Hunt Shire Council infrastructure assets. So this has been a long gestating sort of process that the water team's been in discussions with the Newcastle Institute for Energy and Resources in here, and they operate out of Newcastle University. What they're proposing to do for us is a high-level analysis of all of our major infrastructure assets, predominantly water and sewer because they're the biggest power users, and that's also the area where we have a lot of upcoming projects or potential upcoming projects, and how renewable technologies could best be implemented. There's a link there if you want to go to that website and find out a bit more about NEM's organisation. We've committed to do a feasibility study here, so it's currently underway, should take about 12 weeks. They're coming to Scone on Thursday for a first site visit to go around to some of our major sites. So in addition to water and sewer sites, they'll be looking at Sale Yards, White Park, other areas where renewable technology could be implemented for us. And the outcome of that study will help identify areas for further investment for renewable technology within our shire.
Will they see White? Sorry, through Mr. Chair. Will they see White Park?
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Yes, they will see White Park. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Dan, if you'd like to turn over to page
Sorry,
5.
I'd like to ask a question. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. How much is the feasibility study going to cost?
I probably should have put a cost there. This is more or less a desktop assessment, so I apologise that I don't have the cost there. It may be an attachment.
I thought it was 40,000, is that right?
No, it's not that much.
Okay.
$16,800.
All right.
Thank you. And in relation to renewable energy options for our infrastructure assets, is that in relation to getting water and all that sort of stuff? So basically replacing coal and gas?
It's predominantly to do with power and more or less specifically to do with replacing non-renewable power with renewable power.
And through you, Mr. Chair, so just to clarify, renewable energy options don't include gas, do they?
No, that would not be my take on non-renewable, no.
Right, so yeah, because I know that it is being put about that gas is a renewable energy source, which it isn't, and that there has been some conversation about it being a transitional option. But I just wanted to clarify that in this particular conversation, renewable energy doesn't include gas.
I don't believe so, but again, this is a first stage, very broad desktop kind of analysis of where there are opportunities to implement renewable technology. So there wouldn't be anything explicitly ruled in or out if, you know, gas was more efficient than coal, but that is not my understanding of what the focus would be.
Thank you.
And this, just to clarify further, this is sort of in response to a step before just going along and just bolting on solar panels to everything.
Yep.
Just to make sure that we're actually investing in that renewable technology efficiently and getting the most out of it. That's right.
Thank you.
All right then, thank you. If you turn over to page 5, the water and sewer activities update. I have a question, point 11. Look, where are we up to with this cashless sewage system? It'll come up in the other update, I guess, but it just seems to be going on and on. The Public Works Advisory is undertaking a cost. Philip, do you have any influence on that committee, on that Public Works Advisory?
Yep. So yes, through the chair, we are aware that cashless sewage scheme is dragging a bit, and the residents of Castless are asking where things are up to. So it is a priority for us. Public Works are working with us on that. So we're chasing them for their input onto that project. Our intention at this stage is to have consultation in September. There'll be a report, an updated report in more detail about Castless scheme in the August IC meeting. That's probably the most I can say at this stage. We are preparing some letters as well that will go out very shortly to residents, specifically residents that may be impacted by the scheme itself in terms of easements. So that will go out shortly as well, and we'll inform the community of the consultation session to be coming up.
All right, thank you. Any questions on that page? If not, we'll turn over to page 6. No further questions on page 7 then. There being no further questions, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder of ISC 7.1.
I'll second it.
Second, thank you. Any dissension? Being no dissension, the resolution is passed. Thank you. We turn over now to page 8, ISC 7.2, Works Program Infrastructure Services. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got the 3 major projects there on the regional roads. Hunter Road has been stalled due to wet water in wet material. So hopefully we can get back into that in the coming weeks. There's a bit of an update on Willow Tree Road there.
Could I just ask a question before we just, on the Hunter Road, through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, all right.
In the last paragraph on page 8 about the wet weather impacting the earthworks, and that there's a minor design change which may cost around 300,000. So what happened there?
Through the Chair, that was a combination, yes, of the road widening. So on the inside alignment, we've widened the road a little bit there, so that incurred some additional earthworks. And then the other is the wet weather causing some soft spots through the pavement, which we had to rectify.
So how long, obviously that's going to take a while. Is there likely to be more costs to that?
Through the Chair, I'm not expecting any additional cost to the 300 that's requested. And as far as timing goes, we're at the back end of the project, so I'm thinking 3 to 4 weeks at most before that project's finished.
Thank you. It just seems like a lot of money to have suddenly incurred for minor design change.
Through the Chair, that the minor design change did impact it, but it was mainly due to wet weather.
Thank you.
Sam, the basic, not the basic, but the gravel used, etc., and the earth route, why did you have to change that? The source of the gravel, in other words, was the original gravel that was going to be used, was that, has that proved to be a problem and you have to change the gravel, or what was the changes?
Mr. Chair, no, the gravel's not the issue.
Okay.
So whether getting into the gravel prior to it being sealed off.
I see.
So
So it really wasn't a construction problem?
no.
No.
No, we had some infiltration from the side of the pavement, so coming underneath the pavement. So what we've done is widen that pavement so the water can get away.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Moving on to Willow Tree Road, so just a brief rundown on where we're at there at the moment. So we've been obviously in consultation with Douglas and Partners for the geotech work, and we're also been liaising with Transport New South Wales. Where we're at is coming up with preferred suppliers to undertake the design works for that project.
And that will identify where the original road was.
Chair, there's been a survey done,
Right.
which has identified
Okay.
where the original pavement was.
All right. Okay. So this then, we will then have a firm, once this report is given, then we will have a firm idea or quotation on, number one, what's got to take place and any costings on that. That will come up in that same report, will it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Could I ask a question too, please, through you, Mr. Chair? Just in relation to Mrs. Wilkinson's public participation, when do we envisage that we will answer her 16 questions? Because obviously she needs answers in a timely manner. And also, I think we're all aware that this road is having a very detrimental impact on the Merriwell people, or the people who use the Willow Tree Road. And I know she's raised it with me and obviously with all of us, that this is having an incredibly devastating impact on their business. And also, I want to know, why was the road open last year? And now it's
I just cut you short there. I think those questions will be answered in a confidential, and when that they are then decided upon by council, then they will become public. But I think the General Manager has answered those questions or given indication. So I think we've got to be careful there. This is not the because there are a lot of maybe personnel and a lot of other questions there within that. Those questions, they need to be addressed in the proper forum, and then they will be made public. And the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But one of the issues she raises is that the road was opened last year and deemed to be safe. So that has changed now. So the road is not safe. But so there's no way that people can drive through. Is that correct?
Hang on, no. The question, that's quite correct. The question is, but however, we've just answered that the original road, when it's identified, and the geotech, my understanding, and I'll stand corrected on that, and the geotech gives the approval that that particular part of the road can be used. I think that's where it is. Look, I sympathise with the Wilkinsons, but there are quite a number of people and that transport livestock in much larger numbers than any of us on that road. So we are impacted, but I think we've got to wait until we get that proper report done, and then we can answer that question.
And thank you, Mr.
Hang
Chair.
on, just hang on. No.
To Mr. Chair, in regards to the road was open to traffic. It wasn't officially open, obviously there were some requirements. Obviously when it was open, it wasn't open, but I will prove that it's a certain process we have to go through to get that. And obviously with the rain event that occurred sort of in January, February, that then made the road slump. And obviously that's when we started to impose the road restrictions. Okay, so
I
Thank
have
you.
one more question about the time it will take to repair the road, because there has been a
Well-
suggestion it may be 3 years. Is that correct?
Hang on. We've got to wait for that report, Sue. I can't allow that to go any further because it has to come out from that report, and then we will have an indication of how long it's going to be to restore that road to its proper and original intention. So I think
Thank
we need to stop at that.
Okay, so will my question that I just asked be the fact that I asked how long it's going to take, will that be tabled, or have you disallowed that question?
No, look, I will disallow it because the point is we've answered that and it has to come up from that report and then that will be made public. We can't just put a timeline. If we put timelines on things and the report is not available, then that makes us look very silly.
Well, I
so
think we do look very silly with
no,
justification.
hang on, I'm cutting you off on that. No, I don't believe that's a relevant question. It's been asked and the question's answered. If it's not answered to your satisfaction, I'm sorry, but I can't let that go on any further.
Well, I'm just clarifying, are you going to allow my question, which is, how long is it likely to take for this road to be repaired? That was my question. I understand you may not be able to answer it today, but it is my question, and I'm asking that question on behalf of the community who have asked me that question.
Well, I am part of the community and I'm a big user of that road. But the point is, or my sons are, the point is that that has been answered. We cannot give that exact question until that report comes out, and then a more accurate time can be given, and it will be given then too, and it will be in the public.
So it has been answered?
I'm cutting it off, Sue. We've been down. I won't allow any more argument on it because that's what it's developing to, and I'm sorry, I won't allow any more argument. Your question has been answered, and it will be addressed in the timely manner. Did you have anything to say, Mr.?
no, I'm not able to comment there. And I support what you said in regards to once we know what the detailed design comes back with, we'll know the scope of works. We'll have a better understanding of what work are required and the time frame to do that work.
That's right. I think it's all speculation at this stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I do have a problem with my question not being allowed.
No,
and given
look,
that this is
Sue,
YouTube,
I have
it's
asked
recorded
for
live.
my-
I mean, everybody's
Well,
heard it anyway.
Well, Sue, your question has been out. I don't want any more debate because that's what it's developing into, and I don't believe that that's right. So I'm stopping it. I'm asking you to stop, please. Okay, move on, please. Sam? MR 62, I think you're up to.
Yep. On the road, so we've got those 3 stages there, and we're currently still going through the investigation stages. Stage 1, we've got a geotech report and design, 90% complete. Stage 2, we're still working on design. Stage 3, design and geotech, again, 90% complete. Once all those projects have got to the point where we've got the design complete and estimates, they'll progress forward.
Sam, just a question on that. As council staff have been working with some consultants on that, is that correct? Consulting engineers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we've engaged Geotech.
That's right. Okay.
Consultants to assist with that. Moving on to Nandera Dartbrook Road, with 9% complete there. Just finishing off. I think there's 2 structures left to complete out there, and then that project will be finished.
That includes the tiling.
Yes, that includes on the surface. That pretty much concludes.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yes, I have one in with Nandara Road and the emerging issues. What does all of that mean with the emerging issues? With that paragraph under the emerging issues.
Just trying to find.
It's on page 11, the top paragraph.
I do. Construction of the traffic impact needed to be managed. They're just they're just some of the issues that we come across in some of our projects. So it's important that we note them there that they could be a could be something that we have to factor in later.
And so the last bit of that was the Resources for Regions grant delivery timeframe is scheduled 30th of June 2020. So what's the outcome? What does that mean?
So through. Yeah, so we've liaised with the funding body for an extension.
Oh, we have applied for an extension?
Yes.
Sue, through the chair, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we have applied, has council applied for an extension?
Through the chair, yes, we have.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
I did have one comment which I actually missed to ask about the Bunnan Road and that being dependent on funding. So so we still haven't got final funding for that, is that correct? Through you, Mr. Chair. That's in relation to page 10, and it's in line with Upper Hunter Shire Council budget. And there's a line item and it said subject to final grant or loan funding.
Through the chair, we have funding for stage one.
Sorry, I missed that. I didn't.
For stage one.
We're at stage 1, is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
The recommendation, I have an additional recommendation I'd like to put forward, the resolution that gravel patching be instituted on gravel roads as part of the grading maintenance program forthwith. Additional funds needed will be taken from the allocated gravel resheeting budget. And I'd like to put that up and have that included in the recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Lorna. The reason being that as you travel around the council, that our roads are deteriorating at a very fast rate. They have deteriorated considerably, but we don't have sufficient funds to resheet, but I believe that funds can be used to at least patch some of the areas, whether it be 2 or 3 loads on specific areas. Otherwise, we are just not going to cope in any way. And so that's why I would like that put in. I believe that we do have sufficient funds to do that because it's not a full resheeting program. Do we have any comments or questions regarding that motion?
Yeah. Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I need more information. I don't know what that would mean financially for this council and the community, and I don't actually understand what that means. And does that mean that that would be tacked on to the recommendation, or is that the standalone recommendation?
Well, I believe it could be either, I think, but I'd like that to go up to council, because I believe that we do have sufficient funds. That they are not expensive. It's not expensive to do that as a resheeting program, but sometimes some of the roads are in quite good order, but they have various patches that don't have sufficient material on them to make them passable. And if we just keep grading, especially out in our western area of the Shire, just grading red dirt or black soil on there, then we just have a big patch of a problem. So to me, it's something that was instituted in previous times, and I'm not sure what happened. It was agreed at various, verbally agreed anyway, at infrastructure meetings, but it hasn't really taken place. So I'm very concerned for those people that are on gravel roads, and they have spoken to me about it. So, well, look, why don't you just bring a load and put it on that particular part of the road when you are grading, maintenance grading, because the grader and roller, etc., are already there. So it seems to me a very cheap way of trying to maintain our existing roads.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to know how much that would cost and where we're going to get the gravel from. Do we have gravel supply somewhere that's ready that we can access?
Yes, Sam, you perhaps may answer that.
Through the chair, well, I was going to actually comment about the gravel supply. Although you say it's a cheap option, it depends on where the gravel source is coming from. And that's a big factor in the cost of the patching or resheeting program. So I've been liaising with local residents in the western part of the Shire, trying to source some gravel material, and that investigation will continue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll put the resolution. Do I have any of those in favour? All in favour? And Lorna? Those against? 2. Okay. Well, just note that, please. Those for and those against. The motion is carried. Okay. If we turn over then to page 23. Special projects update, ISC 7.3.
Yeah. Steve, is Alan not joining us?
Yeah.
Should be.
Do you want to read through that, or do you want me to?
Well, if Alan's available, I guess it would be more appropriate if Alan's still there. Otherwise, then, should we go over to ISC 7.4 on page 31? Philip, you have the floor. That the committee receive the report and note the information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the, I guess, the final consumption update for the last financial year. And I guess I'll ask the committee whether you're happy for these to continue into the next year as well. I'm presuming that is the case.
Well, it's really not, I don't know. Does anybody have any objections to that?
So I'm sorry, what does this mean?
The water consumption update is sort of based on the water years, so the allocations that we get each water year from regular water source. So that's more or less,
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what page we're on.
Hang on, I thought we were on page 31. ISC 7.4. Capital work. Yeah. Page 31, Sue.
Thank you.
Apologies for that, was my fault. That's why I've actually got the name of every one of these.
Well, okay. Yeah, well, look, I'm going to ask that because it's a new year, I'm going to say that we start from the front and work through, because there aren't, there's a continuing process or a projected process. So we like to turn to page 2 of our capital works expenditure and start off with line 1 to 50.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in relation to line item 38, what is happening with the water bottle filling stations?
Yeah, I have to take it on notice. If this is in relation to additional water filling stations similar to the one installed in Marunda, which I'm presuming that they are. I know there's an intention to have those as part of Scaling Main Street revitalisation. But apart from the plans on elsewhere in the shire, I have to take that on notice and see what the intention is there.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comment or questions on page 2? Well, let's turn over then to page 3, which is line number 51 to 99. I just make comment on line number 89, 4654 Merriwa Youth Centre upgrading and painting. I haven't been inside, but the outside looks very much refurbished, and I'm just hoping that the young people that attend there enjoy the facilities. Thank you, Alan. Look, we just finished this and then come back to your.
My apologies for being so late.
Never mind. Okay, any further comment on those pages? If not, we'll turn over to page 4, 100 to 149.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So, so essentially the sale yards are complete, is that right?
Mr. Chairman, there's some very minor things need tidying up, a bit of concrete paving, and the landscaping is all but done. There's a few trees going in tomorrow, a few things like that.
Thank you. And line item 146, the Aberdeen Waste Facility Security Camera. I don't know much about cameras, but that looks expensive. Is that installed now?
Yes, it is. It's in regards to there's two solar arrays in regards to 2 camera stands. So yeah, they are in place. I've heard them also those in place.
So through you, Mr. Chair, so the data that camera's receiving is in relation to a solar array and not the actual waste facility?
That's about the waste facility. What it is, it's actually because it's not connected to power that solar.
Oh, I see what you mean. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair.
So since we've had those installed, there's been no break-ins.
There's been no, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I didn't hear that. There's been
no break-ins.
Right. Did we have a lot of break-ins? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Mr. Chair.
If I can ask a question regarding that, is that the cost? I think it was $17,000. Was that the total cost of the installation? Because I think there are some other waste facilities that need those cameras installed too.
I'd have to take that on notice. That sort of sits in the print sort of portfolio, but yeah, just have to take that on notice.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you, Sue. No further questions or comments. We'll move then on to page 4 rather, 150 to 198.
That's page 5, Mr. Chair.
Where's page? We've done page 4. Page 5, it is 2. I've numbered them incorrectly, but they are numbered down the bottom. Page 5, which is 150 to 198.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in relation to gravel exploration. So what is happening with our quarries at the moment?
Well, I would suggest that we don't have sufficient quarries, and that's been some of our problems with our roads. And being out in the western area of the Shire, I'm reminded of that very much by people that come to me and say, well, you get some gravel. I said, if we've got a cart for that continuous, the long distance, that's where a lot of our problems come in. So we really got to get some more gravel quarries going closer to the actual road that we're trying to repair. And out in that western area of the Shire, it is very difficult to find suitable and good gravel.
And line item 177 through you, Mr. Chair, why is that highlighted? it's got a yellow.
Where's the row,
Yeah, I was going to ask that. 177 is highlighted in yellow.
yes,
Through the chair, I believe the intention of the highlighting was to show projects that were dependent on successful grant funding.
Thank you.
And also the animal in the animal control section, line item 195. What were the additional works that were required at the shelter? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have to take that on notice. Mr. Craig would normally be able to answer those, I'm not sure.
okay, well then we'll turn over to page 6.
There was,
I'm sorry, did you,
from memory, the cat shelter received a lining.
can you put that on?
From memory,
Okay.
The cat shelter got lined, I believe, insulated. There was some other word, I can't remember. That's from memory from the finance.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you.
thank you for that. Well, we'll still turn the page 199 to 246 on page 6.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, in relation to tree planting, lower than expected tree planting completed during the year. Is that because of COVID-19?
Not sure.
Through the chair, no. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that the numbers are so low because there is, there's all the costing should be in. I'm not sure why they're so low.
It's been substantial planning, so. Sorry, it's been substantial planning.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, I think there's quite a bit of tree planting going on out of Merriwall, so I'm not sure why that the other centres haven't.
Through the chair, I'm aware of tree planting in St Andrews Reserve, Jefferson Park, on the highway through Aberdeen. Yeah, Merriwall, there was near the showground, there was some tree planting there. Scone out at the cemetery, there's tree planting. So, and there's, yeah, further works to be completed this financial year.
Yeah, I thought that it had accelerated since the rain, which has been helpful. Okay,
Maybe before you go off the trees, there's supposed to be 3 trees in Aberdeen removed somewhere else near the Aberdeen Bridge in Graham Street. Those 3 is put in there.
Through the chair, as far as I'm aware, they were to stay there. They weren't impeding sight vision or anything like that.
Well, they will, I can tell you that now because of the accidents there when they all come out because I know there was 1 tree there before, there's 3 now. And we won't be able to see to come off the Graham Street Bridge anymore when they grow up. I can tell you that now. And I've seen Nick about them. Nick said they've got to be replaced somewhere else.
Through the chair, I'll take that on.
Because I know it's sight distance, but it's not really sight distance. And we can't come any further down this way like we did to the road to see to get through there. We've got bloody poles to watch. Now we've got those to watch later on.
hang on. Yeah, okay. I think you made your point. You'll take that on notice and get back there. Thank you for bringing that up, Lorna. Okay, go over to page 7 then, 247 to 289.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay, I have a question on line item 262, the pool painting. Now, there's been some, is that the interior of the pool or is it on the walls outside? Apparently there's some white paint on the outside of the wall of the entrance to Merriwall Pool. I'm just wondering whether that is included or this was the actual painting of the pool itself inside. Could you answer that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it's the pool itself.
Right. Okay.
Inside the. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have questions again on 261 and 263 in relation to the disabled steps for the Scone and Merriwall swimming pools. and still nothing. And I know that we talked about it before because it's reliant on grant funding, but when can we change our emphasis on what's vital infrastructure? Like disabled steps are vital. So we're not going to, if we don't get the grant money, we'll never put those steps in. So how can we address that?
I stand corrected, but I think that was in the depot. For this year. Could you elaborate on that, please,
Really,
Mr.
you have
Junior?
to take that on notice, but there are a number of grant funding opportunities at the moment.
But if we, through you, Mr. Chair, if we don't get the grants, will we never get these steps for those 2 pools?
Well, first of all, I'd like it clarified whether it's in the depot, because I somehow thought I was reading that and it was in the depot, but I stand correcting on that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there were things in the Depop that were still reliant on grant funding. So we still had things in there that were dependent on if we got money. So, but my question is, why do these have to be reliant on grant funding, and why can't we just pay for them, given that they're $15,000 each, which isn't a lot of money?
Through the chair, I think we'll just take that question on notice.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comment on that page? We'll turn the
Oh,
page.
yes, I do. Oh, no, I don't. Thank you. No, I don't.
Okay, page 8, 290 to 327.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. In relation to the footpaths and the ramps and the surrenders, actually it's line item 293 and 294. Again, is that because of COVID-19 and the way council had to operate? Because we've surrendered that money. So that goes into, I'm not entirely sure what that means, through you, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair, so the Mendy Road cycle lane gets surrendered into this financial year, and the works will continue.
Yep.
As far as the Hill Street footpath goes, prior to construction, we discovered that there's a water main that needs to be relocated. So the works delivery team are working with water to see when that can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify on some of these things, this is my understanding of the surrender item doesn't mean to say that it just doesn't, the works do not proceed, but they are just put over in the close at the end of the financial year, then they are put over into the following year to be continued, and that those funds still are available. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, that work on Hill Street will be looking to do that this financial year. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, turn over to page, no further comment then. Turn over to page 9, 328 to 368. 332, Jeff is not here, but I understand that there was there were the bus shelters, that there was grants, applications. Can anybody fill me in on that? Going in this year or not?
Through the chair, that'll be a question.
Right, okay. Okay, and any further questions or comments? We'll turn over to page 10, 369 to 412. Yes. Any questions or comments regarding on that page? We'll turn over to page 11, 413 to 445. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. If not, I will ask for a move and a second of ISC 7.4. That's right, isn't it? Second it. Any dissent? No dissent, the resolution is passed. Now, we go back to ISC 7.3. Alan, you're here, thank you. You have the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Stone Regional Selling Centre, we talked briefly about that before. All but done, a few things to tidy up and finish off. Things like tree planting and there is, we built a new auctioneer's box, which was under a roof, but requested the roof close that, so that's all happening. Stone CBD revitalisation. There's lots of things happening in this area at the moment. We've had a briefing for councillors and committee 2nd of July, which seems ages ago now. There's lots of work going on with the civil design work and a workshop coming up with the Transport for New South Wales people and their consultants, trying to coordinate all the work and design work. We've got some pretty tight timelines. We've just got to start getting things going and work on the ground by November at the latest. Trying to get on 33 Kelly Street going as well. Work there, it's on the DA application. Proceed with that. So that's the next item on page 25. On 33 Kelly Street.
Just Alan, the budget for the CBD revitalisation, how much money do we get from the from Transport New South Wales to do that?
We haven't got any money from Transport New South Wales, but what's looking like happening is they'll be paying for the roadwork upgrade.
Right.
Depending which, the option we're looking at is over $4 million. And that may change a bit. It's probably a bit of extra work they need to do and some in that range sort of thing. So that would be on top of what we've got budgeted currently at $11 million.
Right, and they will pay for that?
Well, that's our understanding. We need to get
I thought we ended up with $10 million somewhere. Where did this $10 million come from? Right, confused.
It's $11 million and
Where did that come from?
as what, just under $1 million of council funds.
Right.
There's just under $3 million for resources for regions funding. And there's, I think, $7 million been allocated by the state government from
Right.
grant relief.
That's right. That's the $11 million we've got.
Totaling about $11 million.
Okay, so that would 11, that'd be 14, would that be leaving $5 million deficit?
Our original estimate was $19 million.
Yes.
One of the things we're aiming to do is fine tune our scope of work and the budget.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Through the chair, before we move on from Scone CBD, in this report, there's an additional recommendation to do with the 2 different asphalt options. Would you be able to just talk that through?
So I mentioned that we had a briefing for councillors and revitalisation committee members. And that was put on or arranged with Transport for New South Wales and their consultants, a company called Arcadis. And from that came a recommendation that there was 4 options explored. And from that came a recommendation that we go for option 2, which is called, has an abbreviation, COB, which is a overlay asphalt system, where the concrete pavements are repaired and then as a fresh layer of asphalt over the top with a geogrid underneath that to bind it all together. So that was the preferred option. And there's some sections which will need some additional work because the levels aren't quite sufficient to allow that work to do so. There'll be concrete being removed in some sections and deep loop asphalt being placed in those areas. And that's also required to make the drainage work. So that's the understanding of way things proceeding, and Transport for New South Wales have been advised that we have a recommendation from the committee and it's going to this meeting and then it goes to council. So they know they won't get full acknowledgement of that acceptance until after the council meeting.
Okay, keep going. Me fun?
That's sufficient, does that explain it?
Well, I think so. I was at that council meeting. It was the most informative briefing of those particular things, yeah. But I guess that they're really technical things that probably people like you who have expertise in that have a fully understanding of, and Sam over there. But yes, in other words, you know, that was the best recommendation to upgrade that roadway in Kelly Street, because once it comes back to council, then it's our responsibility and costing. Everybody happy with that, or have any further
I've got
questions?
questions. Yes, I have. So through you, Mr. Chair. So essentially the option that we're looking at endorsing, that was the only option because was that the cheapest option? Is that my understanding, that there were 4 options, but we actually could only choose one because of the cost? And that in certain areas where that wasn't suitable, we would then go with the other option. Is that right?
There was 4 options, is correct. The cheapest option was discounted and disregarded, it wasn't suitable. The preferred option is the second cheapest, but it will also need some areas treated with the third option, which is newer again. So it's going to be mainly option 2, a little bit of option 3.
Oh, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, just in relation to when we do Kelly Street, there's obviously going to be an impact on the business street owners in Kelly Street. So I just was wondering if there is a time frame. Do we know how long the roadworks will take?
It was discussed in detail in the briefing, and it varies with various options. Ironically, the cheapest is the quickest, but we want a good long-term solution. So the preferred option, as recommended on page 23, is the second quickest. We have some estimates from Transport for New South Wales on what those time frames were, 71 days.
And also through you, Mr. Chair, with the money that we have spent to date, what have we actually spent it on?
We've had all sorts of work done in terms of design, investigation, surveys, picking up locations of services, investigation of services, discussions with telco providers, discussions with electricity suppliers, landscape design, civil design, and some preliminary electrical design.
Would it be possible through you, Mr. Chair, to get a breakdown with that all actually listed so we can see what we have spent it on?
I guess, Sue, I guess I can understand your concern for minute detail, but sometimes I think that we've got to remember that someone's got to go and get those, and one of the directors have got to detail someone off to go and do those things, because we've been given the I guess that if you were there at the briefing, those matters were already discussed. I remember that the costings, etc., or projected costings were there.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, could I have a copy of them, please? that would be good.
Yeah, there was
They're on Google, aren't they?
a presentation put forward, and I'm pretty sure councillors will send that. But we can get it to you again if you haven't got it.
And through you, Mr. Chair, in relation to the $11 million, is that, I know I've asked this before, but I just want to ask it again. Is it in council's bank, that $11 million? I know that's oversimplifying it, but where is it?
We have, no, it's not in our bank, Mr. Chairman. Some of it is, for example, we've had our first payment from the $7 million, which I think was 1.7. And we've, in total, the $11 million, $1 million is council funding from borrowings and other sources. The $4 million, we made some initial claims, relatively early, so only a small amount of that. And the $7 million, we have one progress claim.
Philip, have we done 5?
So in total, so
Water consumption, that's yours.
generally with
Okay, I'll take the next.
grants, you have to make progress, progress claims, usually due to milestones.
Okay, yeah, well, that's, okay then. Now, where are we up to with you? You've done the
Well, I think
133?
That's Kelly Street done, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
and Homedale Woods next slide.
Yep,
So there's prep work going on out there for the bridge builders, fencing and side tracks are all done, that sort of thing. So, and we're getting really close to getting stuck into it. Cameron's Bridge,
it's on page 26.
yeah, Mr. Gusto went out to visited
Mrs. Fisher.
Mullen, or descendants of Mr. McMullen, the person that
Fisher,
named
Miss
the bridge
Fisher.
after, and came back with loads of history today and has a good discussion, so that's progressing. Scone Regional Airport.
Oh, I have a question through you, Mr. Chair. Just in relation
Yes.
to Cameron Bridge and the renaming of Junction Bridge and the community consultation, it says that's to happen in the next 3 months. So is that going to go out soon? When will that go out to the community?
It's already commenced in terms of gathering information and talking to people who have that information.
So through you, Mr. Chair, is there a
Hang on,
document?
hang on, just let Alan finish, please.
So I'd have to check and take it on notice to get the information about the exact program consultation. But certainly there's been a lot of work done in terms of talking to local residents and people who have information.
So
Through the chair, a letter has been sent to Rupert residents on Thursday. And further to that, I've also mentioned this issue in my show notes.
thank you. And through you, Mr.
Hang
Chair.
on, please, Sue, just let councillor.
I'll finish. There's a letter
You
going
finish.
out on Thursday, and show notes goes out on Thursday about this as well.
Okay, thank you. Sue?
Will the whole community be consulted on this?
It's, yeah, look, they are being consulted at present. So there's, as I said, the show notes going out on Facebook. There's a letter to people up the Rupel about this, looking for their opinion.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So are there other options for other names for this bridge or only this one? Because there may be other people who might be in line to have a bridge named after them.
But hang on, I think we're getting away from what we are. We're discussing this particular bridge. We need to just keep our comments back to this particular bridge.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I am discussing this particular bridge.
No, you're discussing other ones. We're talking about this particular.
No, I'm talking about this bridge.
Hang on, I have the floor, please. This particular bridge and the naming of that one. So that's a totally separate issue to what we're discussing there. Please continue.
Yes, so with respect to Junction Bridge, through you, Mr. Chair, it's the only bridge I'm talking about, and its name, would we consider other names?
No,
Yeah, we can use the.
That-
So through the-
My understanding is we're asking for public comment, and out of that public comment will come other suggestions most likely. So they'll be gathered and presented to council to consider.
okay, fine. So we're finished with this bridge, okay?
Yeah.
Right, continue, Alan,
Moving on
please.
to Scone Regional Airport, there's lots and lots of work going on in terms of tender negotiations, builders and civil contractors, and there's economic evaluation going on as a separate thing, not part of this project, but being independently assessed. And replacement of 2 fire damage.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I have a question about the airport.
Yes,
In the last bullet on page 26, it says implement council resolutions from 27 April 2020 regarding tenders. Just querying what that means at the moment.
That, Mr. Chairman, that resolution was to reject the tenders and negotiate.
Right.
And there was also another element about independent financial assessment.
And then with the works delivery team looking at the proposed car park and changes to Walter Pye Avenue, what's going to happen there?
Mr. Chairman, one of the DA conditions was that we widen Bunman Road, and police delivery team are most likely going to do that. And because of what capacity they have and can't have it, looks like contractors will be doing Walter Pye Avenue car park.
Thank you.
right. Okay, thank you, Alan. All right, continue, please.
Replacement of 2 fire damage incoming living units for Logic I run by. So we now received the geotechnical survey and instructed the structural engineer to design the structure, concrete slab for the building. Architectural plans are in development, applications have been lodged with all the other bits and pieces you need for it, present assets. And out of that process came the need for a few changes. For example, it looks like it's going to need solar panels on these buildings. The water tank needs to be larger than the roof catching water tank, and needs to be plumbed to toilets, which wasn't the case previously.
Do we have any indication of the extra cost that that'll be? That sounds very good for the.
We're talking to one with a budget estimate to try and get an understanding of what it will be before we go to tender. So
Not
too scary when we get the tenders back. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. So ISC 7.3, that's what we're talking about.
Move the recommendation then.
Okay. Well, I'll second it from the chair. Are there any comments or consent or objection? I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Those against. Okay, it's passed. We'd like to turn over now to page 37, ISC 7.5, water consumption update. Philip, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Sorry for the early confusion when it comes here. Couldn't wait. So this is the last update for the financial year, which is also the water year, which is how the allocations are considered in terms of regulated water source. So how do we do? So I'll talk about the allocations for next year to go in order. So that's been confirmed and locked in now for the Hunter River regulated water source. So for a local water utility, which is us, we will have 100% allocation. High security is at 90%, general security 30% in Glenmore Dam. We don't have any high security licences, but we do have general security licences, which we have previously relied on when our consumption was very high. So 30% is very good for us. It effectively means that for the next water year to come, we should have no issue in terms of allocation in meeting our maximum demands from an allocation perspective. In terms of how we finish the year off, so obviously the first half of this calendar year, so the second half of the previous financial year has been wetter than previously, and we've seen the consumption come right down. So we ended the year 13.8% lower than the water that was supplied to the Shire last year, which was lower again than the year before, so which is a really good result. So that kept us well within our local water utility allocation, which we were a little bit concerned about when consumption was very high, but that's no problem. You can see how we have gone in various months. So you can see starting from January, our change compared to the same month the year previously. And if you turn over to page 39 and onwards, the monthly consumption charts, which George has gone. We had a few high consumption results for Castus, which seems to have settled down now. And a lot of that was relating to water being sourced from Castus for roadworks and also a couple of main breaks. That's a very small supply system, so it doesn't take much to upset the averages. So looking ahead, as I said, the allocations are 100% water utility, 90% high security and 30% general. Across the state, there's been noted an improvement. However, that improvement in general is an improvement of 3.5%, so that's not significant. We're still very much on a drought alert. The drought is not over. We're in drought stage 1 in the Hunter. We also are still having those algae issues in the dam as well. The level of the dam is, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's in the high 30s, I believe, about 37, 38%, last time I checked. So that's the outlook for the year coming. There's still indication that we may get some wetter weather in the months ahead, and if that happens, that'll be excellent for everyone. But definitely from an allocation point of view, we're okay. And from a water restriction point of view, our intention and the intention of our neighbours is to remain on level 2 for the time being, unless the situational circumstances change. That's the end of that report.
All right, do we have any questions or comments?
Yes. Through
Thank you, sir.
through you, Mr. Chair. In relation to Glenbourne Dam and being at potentially 38%, why haven't there been, I mean, this probably is not able to be answered, but why hasn't the dam levels gone up, given that we have had quite a bit of rain? Or is it just because it's sort of seeping in?
The inflows still haven't been mind-blowing. My understanding of Glenbourne Dam catchment and the way the dam operates is that it essentially will fill in really high flow, almost flood-like conditions, and apart from that, it just acts as a big storage. So this sort of intermediate sort of wet weather doesn't do much in terms of actually filling the dam. The other thing that happens is when you have the general security available, obviously the outgoings are going to be at a certain level, and then as they get rained in, you know, the releases from that dam will be less this summer than the summer that's just been, because of the cut in general security allocation.
And through you, Mr. Chair, so the general security allocations at 30%, they're for water users such as farms and horse studs and vineyards. Is that what they are?
Correct. Yes.
Yes. And then high security. What's high security at 90?
That can be things like, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, mines and power stations, that kind of thing. I believe anyone can also purchase a high security license if they're willing to fork out.
It's
Right.
just a category that's high security and basically with that, there's so much of it available and it's subject to market.
So-
That's what you pay.
And through you, Mr. Chair, so we've got these different percentages. So there's 100% water secured for high priority water needs, which are power stations and councils. But how does that fit with the other percentages? How can there be 100% and then 30% and 90%?
They have an allocation, don't they?
Yeah, it's just to do with how they break up the water that's available in the dam. It's how Water New South Wales do their sums on the water that's available in that storage.
So there are different percentages on those actual percentages that we can access.
Yes, more or less, yeah. So they'll have the total storage, the stored water plus what their minimum projections are in terms of inflows over the next year. They'll calculate that. And do a bit of a water balance and then find out how much that they can approve for the users. And obviously, us being the highest priority, we get 100% unless we're in a super extreme drought. High security, they reduce down to 90 in general terms of 30. And based on those percentages and based on the lowest flow, the inflow projections and the stored water they already have, that should hit the targets that they needed to hit.
Okay. Is there a website? Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Is there a website where I can go and have a look at this sort of stuff?
Yes, most, if not all, of this information is publicly available. The Water New South Wales website's probably a good place to go, but also the DPIE website as well. Previous water allocation statements, which I've attached to this report, have been taken directly from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Will you not say something about that up there?
Put your microphone on. Thank you.
What happens with, Sue, what happens with up that way? The Isis River and that's got to come down on the eastern side and that to put water in the dam. It doesn't get anything out of Murrurundi or these other ones whatsoever. It has to come from that area and half the time it doesn't have water, rain up there. I know that from past experience with that dam.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions or comments? All right, have a mover and a second here for the ISC 7.5. I'll second that. Or did you want to say no? I'll second that. Any comments or dissension? Those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move over now to ISC 7.6, Scone to Murrurundi pipeline. Chris is not here. Phil, you've got the floor.
I guess I'll give the update. Things go very well. In general, the major components of the project are effectively finished. From an infrastructure perspective, it's essentially finished. There's a few other defects that have been rectified by the lead, with minimal, if not zero, outstanding from memory. In terms of the components still to go, there's still some land issues that needs to be closed out and completed. I don't believe there's many outstanding items in terms of what the league needs to address now, since that's been corrected, nothing major. And we're also going to go through the process of connecting rural customers to the pipeline as well. We'll begin shortly. That's pretty much all there is to say on the pipeline projects. This report on the pipeline specifically will be the last one for this committee, and then moving forward there'll be a new report which will focus more on the villages.
Okay, well, that's a good news report anyway to finish. Any comment or questions?
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. A seconder? Seconded, Councillor Abbott. Thank you, Sue. Any dissension? There being no dissension, the recommendation is carried. Turn over now to page 49, ISC 7.7. Gavin, you have the floor. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Essentially, this report presents the committee the project in a midpoint in design. So, you know, in a nutshell, we've gone out and worked out what's sort of engineering practical. So what we can achieve without having to do extreme engineering. This point in time is where we go to look to our stakeholders, so people like the ARTCs, Transport for New South Wales, the people that are actually, you know, would be our customers, adjoining lands, etc., and take them our concept design and ask for feedback. That's one key part of this. From a project perspective, so if we look at this as a business project, if you like, now we have a design we can discuss with potential customers. It's time to go and establish demand. So really understand who would like to be part of the scheme, what they want to use the water for, etc. So we were able to come back to the council and match up that there is going to be demand, this is what it looks like. And along with that, this is time that a few of the policy issues can discuss. So the design to date found that it is practical to actually pipe around these villages. The preliminary concept we had for Parkville has proved less practical, but they've presented options for Parkville that will work better and actually cost a bit less. So essentially we can do this. We're not presenting this project for approval at the moment as such. We're presenting this for it's time to go and consult with our stakeholders, and we're requesting feedback from the council. So, as you also know, building water infrastructure isn't cheap, and so some preliminary estimates have been done to start socialising what this means from a cost to connection point of view and a few of those points. So I guess I'll take the question, but Phil, want to add something?
Yeah, I guess through the chair, it's a lengthy report, so we obviously don't want to go through line by line. We had that session with councillors previously on most of this content. So I guess I just want to confirm that members of the committee have read through this, and then it's probably most efficient if we just field any questions that you may have or that you think the community may have. We'll take the next step, which is consultation.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. I agree. It is a lengthy report, and there's a lot of information in there. Do we have any questions or comments regarding that? And are we happy to move on to the second stage then, to continue that? Do we have any questions?
Yes. And I'll be brief. So I completely understand what you're saying, but just in relation to the village water and potential water use, which will increase our whole shire's water use, have we factored that into our allowance, our existing allowance, and everything we've just been through the previous agenda item? Obviously, because there would be an increased use of water. I mean, I think it's a wonderful idea, but I'm just mindful that there isn't a lot of water. And I'm happy to get that answer later.
No, that's fine. It absolutely has been considered. Through the chair, I don't want to say negligible, but compared to the capacity that's built in the pipelines for Maranda and also the demands of the rest of Scone, Aberdeen in terms of water from Glenbourne, it's more or less negligible, but it has been included in any calculation that we've done in terms of future infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's
Can
nothing,
you put your mic on, please?
there's nothing new that we won't brief about.
Correct. This is, this report formalises, I guess, what we discussed in that half hour a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yes, the intent of the project nor any of the details have changed since then.
Thank you. Yes, well, if it can come off, then it'll be certainly great advantage to the villages, which will be really good, because in the dry times and in the better times, they're still struggling because they don't have sufficient water. So it'll be a great asset, I think, not only to the Shire, but those people that are living and dependent upon it. So any further questions or comments? There being no further question or comment, I'll ask for a move and a second of ISC 7.7. I'll second it. Have any comments or questions again? Okay, I'll move it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Those against, no. There being nobody against, the resolution is passed. We turn over then to page 113. The recommendation that the committee receive and note the report. And the question, do we have is people happy with the answers to their questions? I just have one question, which was down on my question I was going to ask. On page 114, the privacy screens, Sam at Merriwar and those new facilities, they're great facilities. How are we going with them? Because it's seems to be stretching on and the privacy screens are still not going up. Do you have any update on that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the privacy screen for the one closest to the highway.
Yes.
The second one is still under construction.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The supplier.
All right. The answer to one regarding May 2020 regarding the Venegas Street lights over that the lights over the pedestrian crossing in Venegas Street. Ausgrid have refused again. Could we have a letter telling us that, please? Copy. I just need that for some other people that feel that it's not being addressed, and I believe it is being addressed because I've been told by the directors. And are there any other options that we can use for that?
Yeah, through the chair. So I have some correspondence that I can pass on. And there is a second option to engage a private contractor to install that.
Right. Okay.
Right there. So
Could I-
we're currently investigating
Okay.
that in bidding process.
Could you just forward that on to me, please? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Any other? We're happy to note those questions. Perhaps I should have a mover and a seconder then, that they be noted. And the report also move. Someone second them?
Yep.
Okay. Any dissent? There being no dissent, the report has been corrected. Report has been accepted and passed. Now, councillor questions. Anybody have councillor questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I have 5. With the Scone CBD project, is it possible to get a project plan with budgetary estimates at some stage? Thank you. 2, could we also, in relation to the same subject, receive a timeline for roadworks on Kelly Street, and just a timeline for that? 3, in relation to Ausgrid and the recent pruning that they did of trees in Sata, is it possible that we ask Ausgrid to notify council when they're coming so that we can communicate with the community that they're about to do some pruning? And then is it possible that we can check that they're abiding to the Australian standard 4373 pruning of amenity trees? My next question, 4, will the entire Upper Hunter Shire community be involved in community consultation with the renaming of Junction Bridge? And my question 5 is, do we have a bridge naming policy? Thank you.
Okay. Any other councillor questions? Okay, I have a few here. The erection of the Merriwar portal sign on the Golden Highway, have we got anything further on that? Alan, what do we have? That was, we were under the understanding that was going to go up when that entrance statement was put out. Was there some reason that that wasn't continued?
Mr Chairman, the sign's too big for those entrance signs. It's quite large.
Yes, it is.
It's not particularly high, it's very long. And it would fit.
Okay, well, what's the answer to it then? How can we do that? Can we get those signs?
Previous manager of business development was talking to, I think it was the Progress Association.
Kim Finley, yeah.
Kim Finley, about options, and my understanding they're looking at a separate standalone sign.
Can that happen? They're already made. They're in the works depot. I'm just wondering whether how can we get them put up?
I'll talk to Mr Gatwood about it. And he's happy to
Okay.
you with the moment. Talk to him, wish, Mr Chairman.
All right. Look, that'll be great. Thank you. Sam, do you have any update on the painting of the bridge at Merriwar River? Nick did get back to me and say that it was there was some lead paint on that, and so that apparently council can apply to Transport New South Wales and get a work order to do it, and then, but do we have the expertise to do that? And if it's lead paint, do we have the expertise to remove that and then paint it?
I'll take that question.
Where are we up to? I think Nick said that he was going to speak, I think might be to you and to Brendan, regarding that and to inspect it and see what had to happen. I don't know where it's up to now.
So I'll follow that up. Brendan's currently on leave, so
I see.
From leave,
All right.
see where he's at.
And also the grading of Roma Road and Hampshire Road and that sort of thing. Where are we up to? Because it was a reactive part that had to be done. So some of the graders had to be taken away. And the same thing with the Flight Springs Road. It still hasn't. It hasn't been finished. Where is it sitting in the program? That's all. Would you be able to give me an update on that?
Not
now.
off the top of my head, but yeah, I'll be able to
Would
find
you
it out. So
mind that?
basically the guys or the crews out that way will back to their grading schedule.
Right, okay.
So there is a set schedule. So
Yep. Could you give me an update on that, please? And I just noticed the Commonwealth Government granted $190 million boost for domestic waste processing of waste. Will any of those funds be available to the Upper Hunter Shire Council? Do you know anything about that?
I know that Damon's got a copy of the grant, and I know Jackie, I'm not sure if they've put anything at this point in time.
Yeah.
We're trying to.
Yeah, that was a grant. I think it was a government grant, but it was how it was split up amongst the Shire. Was that, am I correct in that, or can you clarify that?
I have to take that aspect on us.
Yeah, okay. It'd just be good. Yes, just be good because we've got a big bill to try and rehabilitate some of those things and our waste facilities, and if we can get some of that funding, would be very helpful. This was meant to go in a CRM, Sam, but the house on Flags Road between house number 51 and 55, there seems to be a water leak there in the main. It has been repaired, I'm told, a number of times, but there's still water there. Do you know anything about that? Would you be able to get someone to have a look at that, or perhaps when you're out there, have a look? There's also the pipes blocked also, but that's not causing the problem.
Yeah, I'll have to take that on notice as well. I was out there this morning and I did notice, works done on the shoulder of the road, on Flowers Road, so I'm not sure whether that's.
You know, this is down in before the ramp, halfway between the
Yeah.
corner and the ramp. Well, that could be what they're doing here.
On the right-hand side.
Okay. Have you been able to inspect the new resheeting and how it's standing up on Flags Road?
I haven't been back out since.
Right. Anyway, when you're out there, you might just go for a drive.
Inspection.
Yeah. There is a couple of sections causing concern. You might just be able to, sometime when you're out, have a drive. Okay. There being any other further questions? Okay, I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone, for their input and their suggestions, and it's been very, very constructive. Thank you.